Welcome everybody to our LexisNexis product tour for the Legal Citator. I'm Louis Podbielski from our Lexis Law Reports team, and joining me today is a longtime colleague of mine, Daisy Gounden, who is our star business consultant and trainer for the Department of Justice and all nooks and crannies of the legal system. Daisy actually knows our library better than anybody. The content, the search functions, the little features. And she actually is one of the reasons why I do these webinars, because every time I do them with her, I learn something new that I didn't know before. And I must say, the Legal Citator in particular is an amazing creation. It actually was built over 20 years ago by our senior and veteran editor, Marcus Jones. And he worked with a team of very smart technical people that he had cherry-picked to work with him. And they built this Legal Citator with incredibly complex algorithms and stored procedures and rules for basically governing case law and presenting it in our library. And even though in my time with Law Reports, I've dabbled with other products and American products, and I've looked at Singapore and the UK and our competitor series, there's nothing that yet matches what Marcus Jones and his team built in the Legal Citator, even though they did it 20 years ago. Just the amount of legal intelligence and care and thought, and it is legal engineering at its finest. And that's what we want to give you a little insight on. And that's why Daisy is such an asset, and why I enjoy seeing her show things, because there's always little functions and shortcuts that you can learn on how to navigate this Legal Citator. Now, inside the Legal Citator, we have, and the rest of the teams over the decades, they have captured the data and the analyses for over 70,000, it's close to 80,000 cases. Going back to 1828, those lovely appellate division cases from 1910 to 46, you've got all of your old classic judges back then. And it's such a beautiful, complex network. Now, if we, as an example, just to get a window of insight into this Legal Citator, we look at Plasco and Evans, which is the most cited case in our legal history, as it is recorded in the Legal Citator. This Plasco and Evans is head and shoulders the most cited case. And in fact, amongst us Law Reports editors, we're actually wondering if we should keep annotating this thing. 800 plus references over the years by later referencing cases. It's becoming almost the Plasco and Evans rule. So if you refer to the Plasco and Evans rule, do you actually have to cite the case? If someone doesn't know the Plasco and Evans case, yes, do you actually have to give them a citation? So if we have a look at this, we can see that as of this month, it's standing at 841, and when our editors update this thing, it's going to go up, of course, this month with this month's reported cases that are captured. We update the Legal Citator every month with ours and our competitor series. There's a range of law report series that we capture in the Legal Citator, like our constitutional law reports as well. Now, we can see that the 841 later references, our citator has presented this to you. 261 as cases just referenced, 6 are distinguished or found by later cases not to have been applicable in that particular matter. 4, curiously, have actually treated it negatively or with some criticism or some other thing that's triggered 4 negative signals, but still not bad, 4 out of 841. And we can see the overwhelming majority, 570, have positively used Plascon-Evans as an authority. Now, were I to research Plascon-Evans, I wouldn't look at the 261 because they just mentioned in footnotes. I might be very curious about those 6 distinguished, and I would certainly investigate the red ones. But if I was wanting to do research, I would target the 570 over there. Now, inside the legal citator, not only we've just had a look at the noter up, which is the later reported cases, but also what we capture, it's a two-way facing thing. The judgments cited by Plascon-Evans are also captured. Now you can see that the trouble and the meticulous effort that our experienced law reports editors go when they capture this information. They've very carefully looked at all of the cases that Plascon-Evans looked at, and they've decided whether that previous case was considered, referred to, qualified, etc. Now, this is very important because it connects later cases to earlier cases to later cases, and that all together forms this beautiful neural network of connected cases that make up the neural network system, this ecosystem of precedent that's in the legal citator. Now, we can see how rich this is. The green ones get approved, applied, and you can see that some of the cases that Plascon-Evans referred to were actually, you see the red yellow signals at the bottom, clarified and qualified or just qualified. Now, all of these sentiments and these colors get drawn into the legal citator. And there's very, very complex, very intelligent schema of rules that they apply to, that takes into account the court hierarchies, whether it's constitutional courts, just High Court, Supreme Court of Appeal. It takes into account even the particular divisions that that court was in. And then it very intelligently, and this is all curated, expertly curated content and the connections, it produces aggregate signals that are the result of all of these algorithms to give you an appeal history signal, a national signal, and a divisional signal that at a quick glance, you can make an assessment of the case. Now, this is very, very helpful from a legal research perspective, because what happens is these cases that refer to earlier cases, that refer to other cases, and that refer to each other and cross-pollinate, it looks in a small snapshot, something like this. And this is just one tiny idealized part of this 80,000 network that our computer systems have to use up a lot of gigabytes and servers to maintain and serve up for your results. So these 80,000 cases connected by these positive and negative sentiments, and they're also arranged in hierarchies like your brain, like the prefrontal cortex. You've got your constitutional court and the cascades down and cases that refer to each other. Now, last year, I happened to be having coffee with one of our leading Durban lawyers. And the conversation obviously turned to case law and the legal community and the market. So what this lawyer said to me during the conversation, and what I was very impressed with, and there's a handful of lawyers who can do this, is whenever we had a topic, she was able to immediately refer to a particular case, the judge who handed down the particular paragraph and what the dictum was and for which legal point. And I was just very, very impressed. And I know there are some of our leading advocates and even some of our younger ones who are able to do this. They just read case law, they remember it, they savor it, they store it away, much like our legal citator does. And they're able to instantly recall a case on point, that it's the leading case, which judge it was, which paragraph, and apply it to the correct circumstances. And that's where you see a lot of the cases that get yellow signals. It's because counsel has taken a case to court and the judge has said, no, this case is distinguished, it's not applicable to these this legal point or these facts. But this particular lawyer that I was engaged with is in such command of case law. I was quite in awe, because mere mortals like myself, even though I read case law all day, we read too much every day. So one develops a goldfish memory. So what do we mortals do? If you're busy all day with consultations, with practice, with attending court, attending to staffing issues, etc., you're not able just to read case law thoroughly every day and to have that kind of a command. And this picture, I really enjoyed this picture. I often wonder about these two lawyers going up into court. How well prepared are they? Did they have all of the leading cases? Did they go inside and what did the opposition have? Did the opposition have one that they didn't have? Did the judge have one that they didn't have? Or how did their cases, how did their preparation go? What lay behind that darkened doorway after they went to court? I love this picture. And for those of us who don't have that sort of photographic legal citator kind of memory on cases and where they fit into the structure, and I certainly don't, is which why I rely on the citator so much. This is basically what the legal citator does for us. Very, very good algorithms, very cleverly thought out, editors meticulously every month, updating the law reports, our competitor series and ours, and making sure that all the latest cases are correctly connected to earlier cited cases. And it's the cascade. So if a constitutional court case had to now sort of criticize or apply a certain case, the effect of that in the signals, it cascades downwards amongst all the connected cases under very, very carefully curated algorithms and stored procedures. And there's a whole set of very complex rules whether a case's signal can change or not. And for me, that's the beauty of the legal citator. It's an immensely intelligent, curated neural network that will back up my memory and my goldfish memory of case law. Now, here we come to our case, Natal Joint Municipality. And curiously enough, the lawyer that I had coffee with, this was one of the cases that she mentioned instantly, and that it was by Wallace, JA, and the correct paragraph and for what circumstances it was applied. So when I came back to my desk and I plugged it into the legal citator, I was amazed, because this is a much relatively more recent case than Natal Joint, and it's actually fast catching up on Plasker & Evans for the number of references it's had. Quite amazing. By now, it's already been referenced 402 times by later cases. Now, if you really wanted to unpack and research Natal Joint versus Endomeni, you would have to read all 402. If you really, really wanted to thoroughly analyze this case and see how did they refer to it, how was it used. But obviously that's beyond anybody in a busy practice, because time is money, and we simply don't have that sort of capacity to read those cases. Now, in your traditional motor up, and I've taken this snapshot from our legendary Gracies, this is just one tiny portion of the whole list. It goes on and on and on. This is for Natal Joint. Now this is actually not doable. You couldn't really do your research by traditional notarups on this case. It's simply beyond anybody's time and attention span and ability to do this, because this wall of later references, it just goes deeper and deeper and deeper in the Gracies. And yeah, this would be the effect of being told to research it and give a report on the notarup. Analysis, it's just not really practical unless you have those amazing memories that only really, I think, the top elites of our lawyers have. Now, just as a background to the Natal Joint. It was very, very interesting. It was about a senior employee of the municipality. And he was actually able to retire. And because of the pension rules and the regulations that applied at that time, he was actually able to retire and get about 2.6 million, getting paid out for more years than his age was. And this was quite a conundrum. So it went to court, and then it wound up at the Supreme Court of Appeal. And the court had to tackle the regulations governing the fund and Section 12 of the Pension Funds Act. And the primary question for determination was the meaning of the provisos to these pension regulations. And Judge Wallace, who is truly one of our finest legal minds and writers, not just does he have a command of the law, but his writing is so engaging and readable and so eloquent, and his use of the language is so nice. We really in this country are blessed by some of the finest legal minds and finest judicial writers in the whole world. We do, during our research and checking as law report editors, we have to read a lot of American, Australian, UK, occasionally Irish and Scottish, even occasionally a German case or two when we check references. And so we get a sense of what fine judges are like in other countries. And yeah, I must say, our top judges here are definitely in a class of their own globally for their ability to write clearly and unpack the law. Now, here is in paragraph 18 is the locus classicus. It's the most cited by all of these 402. They're always honing in on paragraph 18. And now this isn't the full paragraph. Judge Wallace gives a couple of pages introduction, but then he starts by saying the present state of the law can be expressed as follows. And then he goes to basically in these lines, which are the most quoted, he sets out interpretation. And what's really, really nice and why it's been so widely cited in the past is that it's so broad. He said it's for legislation, some other statutory instruments, or contract, and then he goes into these beautiful steps as to the interpretation of legislation or other documents. And it's such a beautiful and well written and a culmination of the previous authorities that he's referred to. One can really well see why this has been so well cited by later cases. Now, we've seen how completely unmanageable the normal motor up would be on a case like this. Look, on other cases that only have, say, 10, 20, or even 50 later cases, citing cases in the notar up, it's manageable. But on these really big classic cases, you really do need the legal citator to help you. Because now, no, look, Daisy might do it another way, and some of you might approach it differently too. But my first step here when faced with this would be to untick the blue signals, the referred to, just because they would have been just merely referenced, and I'm not really going to get anything meaningful from a later case that just references Natal Joint in a footnote. That's where they normally wind up. I'd be very interested to see this yellow signal. And what I would want to do is just filter it down to these 161, which at least cuts my research substantially. And then I can scroll through these and have a read. Now, just as to what these signals mean, we've got an explanation which is downloadable from the citator. Now the green signals we can see that's applied, approved, followed, or affirmed, something that's going to be useful to read, something meaningful, an application of Natal Joint that you can read something meaningful in the later case that they've really, it might help you with your own case. Now, this is where the neutral, if I only had 10 to 15 to 50, I might well read these. You never know, there might be a little nugget hidden in one of these cases, but my money is one of the green cases or the yellow ones. the neutral generally is just when they're referenced in a footnote to support a sentence in the case. And I've got an example of that. And then the cautionary is not necessarily that there's something inherently bad in Natal Joint. It's just that some counsel somewhere has taken Natal Joint and possibly tried to push the envelope and used it where the facts are not appropriate, or where the point of law is not applicable. So it's worth reading, because you yourself might be wanting to take an angle on Natal Joint, and you might find something very, very key in these yellow cases. And obviously negative, which we don't have for Natal Joint: doubted, criticized, not followed, or if the red is on appeal history, it's been reversed on appeal. Now, we see here, this is one of the cases in one of the 402 that reference Natal Joint, the Natal Union of Metal Workers, and that's what's so beautiful as well, the absolutely interesting variety that you'll find in the note-up, just on all such different topics that refer to Natal Joint. Now, we can see that this is a nice example of what would trigger a blue signal, that there's a point made, there's a sentence where the judge has talked about statutory interpretation. He's given a footnote 160, and in footnote 160, there's case versus the minister, and there's also Natal Joint, and of course, referring to para 18. But it's not, it's helpful perhaps, but I wouldn't really be able to get much substance out of that. So that's why when I'm faced with an overwhelming amount of note-up cases, I would untick the blue guys and just focus on the more substantial ones, which, as we see here, Van der Vente versus Ivory Sun Training. Here's an example. Let me just shift that. That gets the green signal. And we can see this is also a good representative example of what would trigger a green signal, where there's a nice clear statement, and they've actually quoted that para 18, where there's quite a strong approval or application of Natal Joint. That's going to be more helpful. Now, this is the interesting one, the Kingswood Golf Estate, which is also one of the note-ups for Natal Joint. And that, as we can see, it triggered that one yellow signal. This is also quite a good example of what would trigger a yellow signal. So the judge mentions in para 18 that counsel for respondents, he relied on Natal Joint municipality as support for his proposition, but then the judge says, to my mind, reliance on Indemani was misplaced. It's no authority for the proposition that counsel was putting forward. And then he says, according to Indemani, the proper approach is this. So this is actually quite helpful. I think that this is quite useful if you had a particular case and you're wanting to take an angle on Indemani, or you just wanted to narrow, and it would help you narrow where Natal Joint is applicable. And then even then, the amount of green signals where I would think you would find your most useful cases, you could trawl through those, look at the case names, look at the kind of signal, was it applied or approved, etc. And then you could dive into those cases. Unfortunately, from the note-up list, after you filtered it, you can click through to those cases. It'll open it up in a brand new tab for you to have a quick read. If you don't like it, close the tab, go back, open up some tabs where you think you might want to do your research, and then you can read a little bit more leisure at the note-up cases that you've opened up that might be useful for you. Now our colleagues in the States, and I've seen a few other people, they use artificial intelligence to run over and simulate the kind of note-up that we do in the Legal Citator. Now, hands off to them. And in America, you've got the amount of judgments coming out where they have volume of data where artificial intelligence can actually work. Now, the problem is judges refer to earlier cases with such different language. And their sentences can be long, and they can put a lot of if, buts, and conditions, semicolons, and if or this. And the language that our judges uses and the adjectives and descriptors they use can be so various. At the moment, it's not, the artificial intelligence doesn't come anywhere near a trained law reports editor who's skilled in reading judgments, who's skilled in the annotations, saying that this case is approving this case, or it's distinguishing it, or it's considering it, or it's comparing it. We're still away from artificial intelligence being able to do that. So that's actually where the advantages of the legal citator is. We've got 80,000 cases connected together. And not only is it plugged into an incredibly complex set of algorithms, but human skilled, trained human law reports editors have made those connections because they've had to read and understand the whole case. And then with that understanding of what the whole case is and where it fits into the entire body of law in our subject index, they've decided that this case is applying this case, or it's considering it, or it's many of the other rather precise terminologies we have for giving that sentiment and that richness to the BLC. Just as an example, this is an example from our Prentice Hall cases, which we've recently added to our online all essay reports. You just can't expect artificial intelligence trained on modern language to be able to read one of the older cases, our old AD cases, or in 1903 or 1918 TPD case. It's just not going to make the right connections or the right sentiment. We're still a way off from that. The variety of writing styles and languages and the diversity of circumstances and facts and law that are in cases, it's just beyond AI for the moment. And my money would be on human editors, the algorithms, and the way that the 80,000 cases are harnessed together. Should you still want to do your research in print, this is the only other option. And we've just released this. It's the Gracies Index and Note up to the All Essay and the SALR. It covers 47 to the end of last year. And at least this takes both competitor flagships, consolidates their data very, very cleverly and seamlessly. And we have some of the best editors in law reports who take both subject indexes and seamlessly streamline them and combine them. It's so precise and so streamlined, and they are so sparing with words. So you go for a bigger complex like delict down to say actio de corpore, etc., and it's so elegant and sparse what they've done to be able to very, very rapidly find cases on point. So if you are a print person and you're not that electronically inclined, your second bet is the Gracies Index. And please, as always, Shabash and I are always available if you have queries or you need assistance, or if you just got feedback for us. And the email is caselaw@lexisnexis.co.za. We're here all the time. And just a note, please, there is going to be a survey at the end of this webinar after my colleague Daisy has taken over, which she's going to step in shortly. It's just 4 really quick questions. And Shabash, Daisy, and I would very, very much like if we could get your feedback, please, on how useful this webinar was. And if you've got any suggestions for us, we just love feedback. And then we can make our next webinar even better, or help you in some other way. Yep. Over to you, Daisy.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. And I am just going to share my screen with you, just to take over from where my colleague Louis has engaged you. And I really do like the part about AI. I'm wondering if it's really artificial, just the way Louis has explained it, and how reliant it is on our editorial team. And of course, LexisNexis, just priding ourselves in what we do with the product Legal Citator. So everyone, I have shared my screen. Louis, can you see my screen? Is it coming through? Is it sharing?
I can, Daisy. I'm seeing it rather
All right.
nicely. It's the library main menu, yes.
Okay, lovely. So everyone, I am going to speak to what Louis has highlighted with regards to the product and how this would work behind, on the background. And we're going to just touch on some of the searches that were, or rather, we're going to touch on some of the content that was highlighted. So I'm going to just close my camera off, if you don't mind, because I have to focus on the screen in front of me and move away from what's on the other side. So thank you, everyone. So join me with this. Let's see what we can do. All right. So once we have the screen, and we're looking to the Legal Citator product and some of the things that Louis has highlighted in his part in the presentation, and engaged us in this way, we go to some of the search forms. And just to highlight what Legal Citator does, it networks between case law, so found under the table of contents in this way, as well as networking legislation. So there's two things that happen on the background of Legal Citator as it networks and links in and cross-references, if I could use this, between the two products. So Gracies also sits beneath the heading case law, which I'll come to in a moment. And of course, the search forms, just reminding us of the things that we can do. If I use this predictive, the Boolean search or the general search, it has that predictive text, which points out to the moment I type in Natal, it already starts to give me the case law. And if I continue, for any reason, if I needed to continue, I'm still able to then find, the prompt and further. And that is just in case you don't find the relevant, doing a search if it doesn't come up immediately. So that predictive text, just a reminder there, everyone, that highlights and points you immediately, especially where you don't have all of the parties' details, or you might just be referring to it as Natal Joint, and pardon the pun there. So if we look at this, it has a green signal. So another pun from our side there as well. And when we go into this, as we open it up, you start to see that it has these highlights. Don't forget to remove the highlights. So speaking more about what Legal Citator will do, remember the case law appears on the left-hand side, the full text, and you would go into this specific paragraph where it had spoken to, say, paragraph 18, and there is paragraph 18 where specifically those aspects in terms of language and interpretation of statutes presents itself. And I'm pointing to them as we go into the paragraph here. To the right-hand side, though, what would Legal Citator do? So those signals that Louis had opened up in his presentation are found under the heading here, Legal Citator Signal Analysis. That's how we get to the page. And I'm sorry, everyone, this just give me a second. It's always a little difficult to lift the screen as this comes up. I apologize, everyone. So I'm just going to reshare. Sorry, this is, Louis, just tell me if it's back on our screen.
Daisy, I'm still seeing, oh, there we go. It's disappeared.
I'm so sorry, everyone.
No trouble. Let me know if I can share my library too.
I'm really sorry, everyone. What happens is on my screen, I have, Louis, can you share for me, because I'm not able to just pull this up quickly enough.
Okay, sure. Would you like to stop sharing? And then you just tell me what to, okay, it says that you're still sharing.
Sorry, it has just, I apologize, everyone, just completely.
No trouble at all. Let's, you just tell me what to do on can you see Natal Joint?
Yes, I can see Natal Joint.
Okay, just tell me what to do and then I'll search, yeah.
Okay, so once you've seen the screen and we've opened up to the Legal Citator signals, and we won't do it because it tends to hide my screen. So as we scroll down, what you're seeing is the subject index. And then on the subject index, so below that you have the subject index, and that will then detail what Natal Joint has dealt with. And specifically under statutes, you then go to the interpretation of the statutes. And then speaking to Legal Citator, I'm going to skip a heading and go down to the judgment treatment. And what that does is under judgment treatment, you then see all of the case law that has referenced the Natal Joint case. And as Louis has pointed out to those 161 cases and highlighted in green, and you can see that green signal next to the 161 as we point that out. Now, Louis has spoken to something very important there, and he talked of a lovely word that I like. And as you know, in the judgment treatment here, what we do is we have these cases cascading down. And I really like that, because if you look at our judgment treatment, what you would find is that it cascades down by hierarchy and court jurisdiction, as well as in a chronological order. As you see there, it's got the 2021 case to the top. It's a constitutional court decision. And as we scroll down in Legal Citator, you then start to see all of the different case law in hierarchy. So that's a lovely word that correlates with what I can show you from you know, searching and being able to get this on in terms of the hierarchy and the chronological order. And as we go to other searches, so I'm sorry to do this, Louis. I apologize. I'm trying to, in the background.
No trouble at all. Just tell me where to go.
Okay. So one of the things that you find is if I go to a legislation search form, so that's found under advanced search, and we switch to legislation, you can find the same case by typing in either the short title of the act or the act number, which would be 20. All right, that's fine, Louis, pension. Yeah. I apologize, everyone. So sincere apologies.
No trouble. It does show us how we'll still find it, even if we do it your way or my way. Was this the act?
Here we go. So there's the Pension Funds Act. There's a search result. Now, once we open this up, Legal Citator in this way, to the right-hand side, provides you with legislation judicially considered. So, of course, the Natal Joint case speaks specifically to Section 12, subsection 1. So if we scroll down using the right-hand side, so this is really to highlight to you how Legal Citator works from the angle of legislation. What you find here then is, as we scroll further down, you're going to pick up the Natal Joint case. So if you worked from the perspective of knowing the legislation and specifically saying what are the cases that section, that have cited and referred to Section 12 or specifically Section 12, subsection 1, you find here is the Natal Joint Municipal Pension Fund, and one can click into and notice there, Louis, as I point to those green signals, as Louis has highlighted, the positive treatment of the cases, and how Legal Citator and the involved neural network that as Louis called it, that curated network and linking what is really AI in the background, and not artificial by any means. But if we click onto the red link where it says Natal Joint, where we say the 2012, notice the parallel citations alongside that, which we provide in this product. And so here you've come back to the same place of the case being shown to you, plus Legal Citator to the right-hand side. Now, I want to point you to something that's very important. To the top panel where it says related content, there is a little lonely icon there to the left of that, yes, the red icon allows us to download this Natal Joint case into the printed books or the blue books type of format. So what you're going into here is easily being able to switch to the case law as it would look in the publications. So now we're going to switch back to my LexisNexis, and just along the tab there, Louis, on the left-hand side. So everyone, that's where mine just froze on my screen and I couldn't get out of it. So thank you, Louis, for coming to the rescue. So here we have another method of how we could get to seeing Legal Citator. Don't forget, everyone, there is the Legal Citator search. I'll come to that in a moment. What I'd like to do is open up to the cases search button alongside LexisNexis. Here's another way of finding our information. And let's say we did not know the case name, but what we knew was that this case dealt with interpretation of statutes. You could either punch it in the keywords there, as Louis has pointed out. Just take care, though, when you get a no result, that may mean that those words, interpretation of statutes, is not found in the fly notes section. So that keyword search, the particular one that Louis has typed in, that would search just within the range of the fly notes and head notes. So what we suggest is scroll down a little further and pop in those keywords under the exact phrase, a few lines below where we say interpretation of statutes. And then you run the search and you'd certainly see some of the results coming up. Yes, thank you, Louis, right there. So you can punch in interpretation of statutes and we can run the search, Louis, either way. It should. So once we do a search like this, it would then present you with results on your page. And I'm going to just point out to you the wonderful search filters and a few more lines. So thank you, Louis. Sorry for that. There we go. There we go. All right. So once it runs the search, it starts to bring you the different cases which have got interpretation of statutes in it. You can use the filters to the left-hand side of the page. And as we scroll up to the left-hand side, whenever you're working with case law, you then want to change that to a chronological order. Just a reminder of some of the things that we have, everyone. Whilst we're focusing on Legal Citator, I just want to point you to the case, the Chisus's case, and that one is a 2020 case, and how you open up as far as Legal Citator, automatically opening on the right-hand side, allowing you to delve a little deeper. Notice the green signals already, the subject index, the judgment treatment. So once again, I'm highlighting to you to those things that we have spoken to. So if you go to subject index, it will then tell us what that dealt with, but you're okay there, Louis. I apologize.
Oh, no, we're good. We're good. Yes. Oh, here we go. Statutes.
Yes.
Interpretation.
Lovely. There we go. So everyone, this is how one comes to the later case. And of course, if you go into judgment treatment, that then provides you with the latest case. But Louis, you're at the right place there where you've got previous cases considered. So judgments cited by this case. And of course, you should see Natal Joint more than likely coming up as one of the.
Yes, it was approved. Nice, Daisy.
Okay. So this is how one sees on the Legal Citator in that vast neural network, how this speaks to at the background. And so I've given a few options here. One, how you use the case law search. Two, how you use the legislation search. Three, if you use the all content search, where we're still showing the Natal Joint municipality on that Boolean search box. And the last one that I want to show is the Legal Citator search, which also sits along the new panel now, which says advanced search. So if we click on Legal Citator search, what you find here is this works as well, whereby you can then pull up cases specific to, let's say, a legislation. So if I click on acts here, so the second heading to the top, Louis, all right, so if I click on acts, that renders the page to allow me to populate, and I'll scroll a little further down to where I can punch in either the act name or the act number and year. So we could say pension funds. Now, usually I would prefer to type in the specific act number, only in the event that we may have amendment acts that pop up. So, and it's not particular to this one. So the Act number here, 24 of 1956. So one needs to only type in either the short title, or you could type in the Act number and year. So thank you, Louis. So once we run that search, you would then see it speaks to all of the case law. If we had put in specifically section 12.1, it will bring up only the case law for 12.1. But this is in an alphabetical order. So as we scroll down, you should come to Natal Joint. And I apologize, Louis, I had something on
no trouble. I'm getting there. LM.
So Natal Joint should pop up, yes. I was going to tell you to put in 12.1, but it should be. So everyone, what this does is it would bring you the different cases, and under the letter N, you will then start to see Natal Joint appearing. All right, so there it is. Another way of getting to find the same case law, and this time by finding using the Legal Citator option. Don't forget the Legal Citator search also allows you to search for case law by rules as well, and you can populate those screens. So one more thing that I want to point to, and Louis, if we just open up to Gracies on the left-hand side, and speaking to what Louis had mentioned to us, and we can close all tabs, we can open up the screen in this way. So I'm talking at the same time. So my dear colleague is really assisting me here, and I so appreciate it. So when we speak to Gracies, and for those of us that perhaps still want to use Gracies in conjunction with the judgment treatment, as we find under case law, and we go into Gracies, and we could either find by the subject index, and alternatively, you could go to the Nota up. All right. So Louis is doing this one here, where we are.
I'm trying.
I wanted you to go to the Nota up.
Okay, great. I was going to go to statutes and then the interpretation of it.
Right. So
here we go. Nota up.
So under the Nota up, and I'll speak to that point where Louis did go as well in a moment. So just if we go to the Nota up and we go to the letter N, then you would find, so this is then if you know the case name and you want to see what later cases have been cited or referred to, have cited the Natal Joint. So we scroll down to Natal Joint, and it's a little bit of a long way down onto the letter NAT. Till we get to T, and then you will see all 161 cases that still appear under Natal Joint. So thank you, Louis. A little further down. All right. And as we get to there, as Louis is getting there, so you'll see this entire list of cases where we get to Natal Joint. And there it is, everyone, speaking exactly to whether it's been followed, whether it's been applied, whether it's been considered or discussed, and all of those lovely words that we use. So this is how one uses Gracies in relation to finding that subsequent case law. And where Louis had gone to, that was great as well. In the Gracies Index to Nota up, if you knew that it spoke to a specific legislation. Remember, Gracies speaks to the case history, it speaks to the Nota up, it speaks to the cases reported. It also speaks to the legislation. So specifically under that legislation, or you could go by the subject heading. I'm sorry, Louis, I might be a little bit too, yeah.
No trouble at all. Should I go to the table of statutes?
We could just point it out. And so, of course, under the table of statutes, you could then look for the Pension Funds Act and go into section 12.1. And of course, here, do note that the legislation starts way back, even prior to 1910, we document that in Gracies, and every case that even predates 1910 in our product of statutes, you will find that all case law is then provided for you. So when you go down to say 24 of 1956, and you bring that act up on your right-hand side screen, it is then speaking to those specific legislation. So everyone, there's so much to show you. And, you know, those of you who know me know that I get quite excited to show you and all of this. And I'm always eager to show you what the power of the system can do, and this powerful tool and this vast neural network that we have, AI, neural network, photographic memory, all interspaced into one and combined to show us the wonderful Legal Citator product. We love this product, and we certainly want you to use it, and we want to do our best to just engage with you and show you the product all the time. So I'm going to hand over to Louis, and Louis, go ahead. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Daisy, sorry, we had a question that I tried to answer, or maybe fumbled earlier on the message. One of our viewers wanted to know if they subscribed to only certain of our content on the library, and they do a search, but unfortunately content comes up in the search that they're not subscribed to, and obviously it clutters the results. They only want to see results for the products that they subscribe to. I recommended going to the side menu here and then sort of ticking the products that they only want to see results for. Is that correct, or do you have a better way of doing that?
There are a few ways now. It has evolved from selecting on the left-hand side. So if you go to the top Boolean search box where it says all content, right at the top, you'll see to the left of that.
All content.
Yes. Please note though that the selection on the left-hand side is an old step, and it still works where we used to have the plus signs. That is still, it's something that works, but we have brought that same step here under this little drop-down menu here, where it allows you to restrict or refine your search to the particular product.
Thanks, Daisy.
That answers the question.
I think Narissa's cringing. Here I am, and I didn't know about this little thing. Fantastic. You know, every time we do this, we learn something. Because yeah, what I used to do is just, I just, for example, just to show you what I would do, I would obviously, if I only wanted to search in national legislation and I didn't want case law results coming up, I would just tick that, and then I would go type my query here, or under this case law search. Ooh, yeah, I'm also getting, yeah, I find this pretty good because our South African labor law is just like on fire lately, especially with COVID and all kinds of issues. So I find it very useful. Like if I'm just looking for something labor and I want to restrict, then I only do that. Only search arbitration and labor law reports. So it only searches on those products. Yes, and then I could have done that also by just finding those products here in the menu and then ticking only that. I'm just quickly checking if there are any other questions from the chat. No, it looks like we're good, but as always, I'm really sorry if I've missed somebody with a query that we could have answered, but please just email me at caselaw@lexisnexis.co.za and we'll answer your questions. So that email comes to me and Shabash, and then we'll reach out to Daisy as well. Daisy, anything further?
No, thank you, Louis. I think it's time to let everyone rate the session and put on the polls. Is that where we are?
Yes, please. And again, everybody, there's just 4 quick questions that I think they're just ticks, or they're very short questions. If you could please just do our survey. If we can have that survey pop up, then there it is. Yes, please. Please, if you can, just take the survey for us, and it'll help Daisy and I to improve our next webinar. Thank you all for attending. We enjoy these so much.